All right, it's Thursday night. Thursday night again. This is 2 weeks in a row. We haven't done it on Wednesday due to holidays, and uh, but this wasn't a holiday. We made it a holiday because we went to go see Ringo Starr last night at the Ryman in Nashville, and we went with our good buddy Bryant Long, who is back with us tonight. We had a good time, didn't we,
It was
Bryant?
a blast. Yeah, one of the best times.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We had this planned for a bit, thanks to Percy's the Percy Travel Agency. We stayed in Franklin, Uber down, had some great conversations with our Uber and taxi cab drivers, to say the least.
Oh, we'll get into those a little later.
Maybe, maybe not, and or maybe, but we it was a great time. And we were talking about Wilkie asked, how do you rate that concert? And as far as the experience, I mean, Percy said top five. I'd have to agree, Brian.
Well, I've been to six. Well, they probably the most fun one we've
Yeah.
been to, but really because of the venue too.
Yes. It was when I say the experience, it was the venue, it was the camaraderie,
Yeah.
it was the vibe that was going on in the Ryman. And Percy's been in the Ryman. I've never been.
I
Of
haven't
all the
been.
venues I've been to in the country, never seen a show at the Ryman.
And I want to add some perspective. Bryant said that he had been to six concerts. Three of those have been in the past year with me.
Yeah. Hall of Famers, and another one last night. And it was a great show. They played, this was their second night to play the Ryman. And when we got there, we weren't sure because we knew the night before we had done some research on who came out and played with them. So we weren't sure. And we're going to get into the set list a little bit before we get into it. Uh, but let's thank our sponsors first. And let's get into the set list and conversation about the experience. Then we'll do our top fives because it was a really great time. We want to share this with everybody. So let's thank Brenly's Family Pharmacy. Appreciate them so much, and keep telling people use a local pharmacy. You'll get better care, and they do a fantastic job. Spices Smokehouse Crackers, they keep us and our guests with crackers and poppers, and they're great supporters of the show. We love them. And last but not least, Busted Oak Bourbon Society, where Percy and I'll be back Saturday at the bar in the trenches, and we're going to play some Ringo Starr for you Saturday. A lot of people think, yeah, Ringo had like one or two or three good songs, blah blah blah. When you dig in, he's got a lot of music, a lot of good stuff too. So, I mean, I impressed myself when I did the dive and started listening to a lot of Ringo, and I know Percy did. At one point, he had 48 plus 50 songs on the playlist, and they were all good. It was good music. So, to give an example of some of the songs, and these are the people that came out with him last night, which was really, I was totally floored. But I guess if Ringo calls and says, "Hey, you want to come do a song with me at the Ryman?" And you already live in Nashville, because if you look at these artists, they're all Nashville artists. They're all probably got their little studios in Nashville, but they showed up. Jack White came out and did Matchbox.
To do something impromptu. We just like go around the circle here and just impromptu and asked everybody what was their favorite song that Ringo didn't sing.
Oh, I don't know. I can tell you. I don't know. What do you got? Got the conversation out.
Mine is probably going to be one of two. It's either going to be Octopus Garden that Molly Tuttle did, or the version that Jamie Johnson did of Have You Seen My Baby?
Yeah, that's good.
Because I did not care for Ringo's version of that song, but Jamie Johnson that song just fit him.
Yeah, he did great. Jamie did a great job, came out, looked good, sounded great. Everyone did. Like I said, Jack White came out, did a Carl Perkins cover, Matchbox. You had Mickey Guyton and Molly Tuttle come out last night. Gosh, Jack White did a couple. Larkin Poe came out and did Thankful. Billy Strings was there. Billy's been hot on the scene here lately. Let's see. Sheryl Crow was there.
The one and only Emmylou Harris was
Emmylou
there.
Harris was there. Mickey Guyton was there. Rodney Crowell was there. Sarah Jarosz was there. Who else? This was just amazing.
And Brenda Lee made
Brenda
an
Lee
appearance.
made an appearance at the end, lip sync, best she could do.
I will say a song, a group that you're a big fan of did, and I was a big fan of the song because it was off Blues the Blues,
Right.
but War and Treaty did without her,
War and Treaty was,
and that's a great song.
yes, they did a fantastic job. That may have been when Ringo sang. My favorite of everyone that came out was War and Treaty.
One of my favorite things of the night was they did a song, and I forget what it was, but they put Ringo back on the drums, and he wasn't singing, but he was just playing the drums, and it was so fun. They had him on the jumbotron, just watching him. He was just like he was having. You could tell he was having a good time.
He was having a ball.
He was grooving.
Yeah, yeah. It was a good time.
It was good.
I'd do it again.
And it was cool, that it was being filmed for a live coverage by CBS.
CBS, so they played 2 nights in a row, so that'll give them plenty of footage to make a great special. So there will be a Ringo Starr special coming out on CBS in the spring, and we get to say that we were there. For one of
Absolutely,
those
CBS,
nights.
not
Not
PBS.
PBS. Just one of the girls thought it was PBS. I don't remember who it was.
And
It
I,
was Molly,
It was,
though.
yeah, it was her. It was the tall.
and I saw last week where Ringo had the #1 country album on iTunes.
Yes,
I saw that.
he's hot as fire right now. 4 years old. The guy, maybe he's 160 pounds soaking wet.
That much.
His beautician does a great job dyeing his beard and his hair. He looked great, and he sort of glided around on stage without any issues. We were talking in the green room that he would have had more issues on stage than Ringo, and he's, 24 years older than me, so he's doing good. Just happy to report. Happy to report. We also ran into Annette and Tara there, and of course Tara and Smitty have been on the show, and Annette's been here, and we got to hang out at Robert's Western
Oh.
before we went.
Fantastic place.
Yeah, I knew Peeves would like
Yeah.
that place. When you come in and it's old country, that's what they play. But when you come in and they're playing Angel Flying Too Close to the Ground, they got all the pedal steel going off, which I know Percy loves. We had great seats. We hung out with Annette and Tara. We probably stayed in there 2.5 hours, maybe.
Probably so.
And then
Got a bologna sandwich.
they all ate bologna sandwich.
Yeah. When I even posted, that we were there, 2 or 3 people said, "Well, have you eaten the bologna sandwich?" I said, absolutely.
Fried bologna sandwiches in that the hair.
PBR.
PBR. That's the Prohibition Special. Fried bologna sandwich, a moon pie, bag of chips, and a PBR, $6. Where can you beat that? And it's the best damn fried bologna sandwich. So there we go. That was a good kickoff. Y'all ready to get an honorable mention?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, Percy, what you got?
My first honorable mention is a cover, and it's a cover of a Carl Perkins song. And this song was actually on the B side of Blue Suede Shoes for Carl Perkins, and it's Honey Don't.
Great song.
And before they did this, John had previously sang it live.
Mm.
And there's a version of John on the BBC sessions where he sings that song, and it's not good. And it's like that song was made for Ringo.
Right.
And we had this talk on the way down there. The mark of a good band, or a great band, if you've got several singers, is picking the right songs for that person.
Yeah, and the Beatles, every album, they would pick one song and say, that's a Ringo song.
Right.
Ringo had a song on every Beatles album. And it just worked. They picked the right stuff for him to sing with his voice, who Percy described his voice perfectly as being very relaxing and melodic, if you will.
One of the songs that I have, like in my top 5, they McCartney and Lennon had written the song and say, "We're going to do this for somebody with limited range."
Which is Ringo.
Because they did perfect songs. They
Oh,
knew
yeah.
what he could do.
Mhm. Yes, that's good stuff. All right, Percy, tell us before you go into your next. How did Ringo come to do a country album?
He had met with he tells his story about T-Bone. T-Bone used to come to his parties all the time. And Ringo said, I never invited him. He just showed up. And he said he was at a party and we were just talking. And he said, I'd like to do some new music. If you've got a song, send it my way. And Ringo said he sent it to him. And it was just a straight country song. So that's basically how
There
it
we
came
go.
about.
Yeah.
And you mentioned too in our conversations this past week and on the trip that if you hadn't done the deep dive into Ringo's music, you need to.
Yeah. A lot of people were commenting, why is Ringo jumping on this bandwagon doing country music? Why is he doing it? Ringo's second album is more country than anything.
It is.
Ringo had one foot in the country to start with, so make no mistake about it.
Well, really, we talked about it before. You grew up really loving country music because of
Ringo said
the maritime people. And Liverpool was the country music capital of the UK.
Right.
And you had all those maritime folks coming into that port city, and
That's
they were
what Ringo
bringing the
called it.
music. They were picking up the country music from the U.S. and some other places,
Yeah.
and they were also doing that with the rock and roll. Because I had read one thing, the rock and roll in the UK was all that skiffle music.
Yeah.
Well, not really rock and roll, but they had that music called skiffle.
Yeah.
Weird stuff.
And I think a lot of you had two separate factions and over there when you had the people that were into the country and the rockabilly, and then you had the people like the Stones and the stuff that were just in the hardcore blues that had came out of the deep South.
Yeah.
And that's what the skiffle was, mostly that and blues and that kind of thing.
Well, I think that was kind of almost like a subgenre or something. I don't know what they.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it before kind of getting into this.
It's British.
Yeah.
Who knows? They eat country beans and they rebel.
Yes. They got some awful food.
It's the worst. Yeah.
Except fish and chips.
Yeah. That's why Mick and Ringo and all them are so skinny. What do you eat? All right, Percy, resume.
The next honorable mention is a redo of a Beatles song, and this version I like it because Ringo adds a little bluesy country touch to it. And it's his redo version of Don't Pass Me By.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Don't Make Me Cry, Don't Leave Me Blue. And this song was originally released as a single in Scandinavia.
That's weird.
Which I thought was really weird.
Yeah. Well, we've seen where we were in the top 50 in Chile. We made it to Peru once too. It's random. It's weird.
And my last honorable mention is this song has really grown on me this week, and they did this at the concert, and it's Octopus Garden.
Yeah, it's wrong.
I mean, I want
I
to
used to really, because I'm a Beatles fan. I know you are, Brian.
Yes.
And that was one I would skip
Oh, me too. Until
this song was credited to his real name, Richard Starkey. This song was, and this was the last Beatles song to feature Ringo on the vocals.
Well, it was a hit for him too.
It was.
Yeah. Right. That's your honorables.
That's my honorables.
What you got, Brian?
All right. Well, y'all know how big a Beatles fan I am.
Yes.
But it was all the old Beatles stuff. It's not really just any of the new songs, the country songs, or anything like that. But as far as an honorable mention, if you could do one for that entire Bukus of Blues album,
Yeah,
I'd probably do that. But since you can't, going with Loser's Lounge.
That's such a great
I
one.
just picked that one today.
We were listening to way home today.
Yeah, and the scary thing is, I'm afraid it relates to me too much. That's what I was kind of worried. You were like, I'm a charter member of the Losers Lounge. And anywhere a poor boy goes, there's a Losers Lounge. But like I said, it's from that Bukus of Blues album, and it's one. I think you may not disagree, but could hear a Buck Owens or a George Jones singing that song.
You know who played on that album in the studio? Charlie Daniels and Jerry Reed played on that. It's close. Up some of Jerry Reed's picking on that album.
Some of Charlie's too.
Yeah.
Mentioned on the
Yeah. So I Charlie on the dobro on that album.
yeah, amazing.
My second honorable mention is You're 16. So, written by Robert and Richard Sherman, first performed by rockabilly singer Johnny Burnett, and covered by Ringo in 1973.
And made it in the top 40.
That's great. Great song. So in 1974, from the Ringo album, it reached number one on the Billboard Hot 100. But later on, and we talked about this a little bit on the way back, but Ringo's 33 years old, and he's singing about, the 16-year-old. Now, it's condemned a little bit by folks for sexualizing a teenager.
Right. But I mean, I get it. I mean, there's been other songs and music. I mean, do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
We had this talk. At least he wasn't singing "You're 13, you're my husband."
Sure.
Right. My third honorable mention is the No-Nos.
Love that one.
So, it's pretty good. 1974, written by Hoyt Richardson and David Jackson.
Boy, makes great to know no song.
And
Y'all remember that Hoyt Action wrote?
But
The Pusher.
Yep.
I knew y'all would know that.
He wrote The Pusher, and he also wrote
wrote a lot of drug songs, man.
He wrote "Work Your Fingers to the Bone." What do you get? Phony things.
Right, so it was on the Good Night Vienna.
They didn't play
You're going to tell me.
Sir Elton John.
Wow.
Awesome.
Good stuff. Yeah, that's one of the beauties of Ringo. He had so many different collaborators come in and work with him and help produce. You listen to some of his songs, you can tell George Harrison was in the studio with him. You can always tell. You can tell Paul McCartney sang backup on some of his hits. So those three sort of stayed in touch, and that some of the Ringo music had a little Beatles flair in it, if you will. Yeah.
Maybe last night should have said no to some of those rhythms in the song.
It
Was a lot of fun.
It was.
I could tell.
Well, we didn't have any cocaine.
No, that was the one of the three.
Yes, we didn't have that.
But it was a lot of fun.
We didn't have anything. We had some beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. Anyway, that is a great song.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Yeah. That's the ticket.
It's a good time. Peace and love, man.
So that was fun.
So that's your honorable mention?
Yep, that's my three.
You had mentioned the album Goodnight Vienna. I like the song Goodnight Vienna off the title track album. I thought that whole album, that and Buku of Blues, were fantastic. And I also like, have you seen My Baby? That's another honorable mention that Ringo did that I liked. And 6 o'clock.
I like 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock is a great song. And I would imagine all these are probably on the playlist that Percy has built.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's gonna be fun. And I would encourage everyone, and Percy might challenge you, to listen to the playlist, and you're gonna go, hopefully like we did, and go, damn, Ringo has some really good shit. Yeah, good stuff. All right, top fives. Percy, what's number 5 for you?
Top five. My five's already been mentioned, and it's the great song "The Loser Lounge" from Buku of the Blues.
Yeah.
I mean, this album was recorded in 3 days in Nashville.
That's crazy.
And I'd already mentioned Charlie Daniels and Jerry Reed played on this, but also on this album was DJ Fontana.
Yeah. So with that conversation, we're talking about how did Ringo get. If you connected it's back to Buku of Blues, you said it. We've all said it. It's a semi-country album.
And also the Jordanaires were on this album. So I mean, you're tying the 6 degrees of country and rockabilly there.
Yeah,
With Fontana and
yeah, it's pretty wild stuff. All right. Beebs, number 5.
My number 5 is Octopus's Garden.
Good.
All right. So now we were talking about songs that he wrote, but he did write this one, right? So
And you know you know the story.
oh yeah, so he kind of had a little bit of separation from the Beatles. He went to Sardinia and was out on Peter Sellers' boat. So he's out.
Panther's vote.
Yeah.
Right.
So you hear that song every time I hear Peter Sellers. You know, you hear the Pink Panther theme. But yeah, so and it's on the 1969 album Abbey Road. Wrote it on Peter Sellers' boat, and it was
It's a great story.
yeah, it was just a relaxing, peaceful song, and it was the captain of the boat had was telling him about the octopus, and what they like to do was they would go down to the bottom of the sea and grab all the shiny pieces of any kind of rock or whatever they could find and just put it in an area. And they just kind of called it their octopus's garden. So it's relaxing,
Yeah.
and he was kind of looking for that at that time.
And it's funny, we were going to get in line at the Ryman last night, and it was cold, and the line was stacking up. So we sort of ducked in Margaritaville for a little bit, just hey, let the line get through because we got reserved seats. What's the rush, right?
Right.
Let's not freeze out here. And we were talking about Octopus's Garden while we're sitting at the bar, and the guy playing all of a sudden just started right into Octopus's Garden. So
Weird.
anybody here for Ringo tonight? He didn't hear our conversation, but I just thought that was
And
pretty cool.
when he was on out to the time with Peter Sellers' boat, he ordered fish and chips for lunch, and he got squid.
Yeah, calamari.
That's what they sent him. They said, and he said it tasted like rubbery chicken, and that went on in the right part of that song, along with what the boat captain had told him about that.
Good. All right, my number 5. Sorry to mention No No song. Who was it? Not me. Where'd you go?
I went.
You did. Go. Number no. Court gave me this look. So No No song. I remember when it came out. It was a No No song. I think they was talking about marijuana, cocaine, moonshine. No 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 no. I don't smoke it no more. Right, waking up on the floor. So no songs that.
And when he dealt with some addiction.
Bad, bad. Selling his wife Barbara Clock. They did the whole movie Caveman. They were stoned out of their gourd, and they both dealt with addiction at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. You talk about his wife and her sister, who we know is married to Joe Walsh. So Joe would always play with Ringo in the All Star Band. So anyway, a lot of degree. Ringo has a lot of tentacles out there. Octopus's Garden.
Yeah, there you go.
I didn't plan that. It's sad. So, but there's a lot of
For 2 days.
in there.
It's serious now. So
Go wrong with this. I'll need a nap. That's probably what. Percy, number 4.
Number 4 for me is one of the encores that they did last night, and it's Yellow Submarine.
I'm glad that made someone,
And we had this talk
be on yours.
on the way to Nashville. I had never heard the term double A side.
Right.
And this was a double A side with Eleanor Rigby.
Yeah.
And it was written as a children's song. And at the same time that this song came out, it coincided with Lennon's "We're Bigger Than Jesus."
Right.
Which, anybody that want to think this council per culture has started recently, it hadn't.
No.
It's a lot worse now, but
Yeah.
yeah, it started a long time ago.
Special part of Yellow Submarine to me, and this is Peeves. Peeves is Brian, by the way.
that's me.
You'll relate to this. Started my daughter, who is now 30, about to be 34 years old, on the Beatles and Yellow Submarine. I mean, I was like, I'm going to get to this shit before the rest of the world does. Or I'm going to be listening to Spice Girls and Backstreet Boys and all that bullshit for the rest of my life. So I introduced her to the Beatles. I found a die-cast Yellow Submarine. She still has it, still in the package. and she's been a Beatles fan ever since. And you've done something similar.
Done the same thing with Trey, and now my granddaughter is 3, and she can sing Yellow Submarine because we get in the truck, she says, "Papa, play Yellow Submarine." She loves it. I'm loving it. She loves it. So
Well, I'm going to start Cooper and May on it pretty soon.
that's cool.
Yeah, good choice. All right,
Well, my number 4 is Yellow Submarine.
there we go. So it was going to be on me.
Murphy, let's see, he checked my first comment, my second comment, my third comment. Well, let me tell you, when you look at that, look at the commercial value of the song. You had a movie, yes. You had toys, you had clothing. I wonder how much money in royalties that
Just
brought into
that
him.
one song.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It was.
And it's funny, seen pieces of it. I tried to pull it up today, but it was on one of those things I couldn't get it.
Yeah.
But
It's a must watch once in your life. They dissed Ringo in that movie. They like kicked him off the sub at one point or forgot him. Had to go back and get him. But it's one of those movies like Pink Floyd The Wall. It's just the Beatles version.
we need to all watch that one together. And
Yeah, I mean,
enjoy
it's a good
it.
one. Yeah,
And
yeah.
and
Well, it's the animated. It was animated movie.
we're experimenting with a lot of things, not just fun
Not
stuff.
just LSD.
And I watch that before I can watch them running around like they're on crack in Hard Day's Night.
Yeah, this was annoying.
That was
It was so long ago. They didn't. There's B films and there's C films, and that was below a C.
I don't think I've seen that movie all the way through.
Yeah, I couldn't stand it. So maybe 5 minutes you change it. But regardless, they made a movie. They made 2. Yellow Submarine. Challenge anybody to watch that. Right. My number 4, then mentioned, but I like the Beatles version because I am a Beatles fan, and it's Don't Pass Me By off the White Album. Just they gave him good songs, as we talked about.
That's a great song.
And I think that's one of the best ones that John and Paul gave Ringo to sing.
And it's one of those songs that is so simple, but it's so effective. I mean, the words "Don't pass me by," "Don't make me cry," "Don't make me blue." I mean, it's simple, but it's great. I mean,
Yep, absolutely. It's fantastic. All right. Round of the bend, nitty gritty time. Percy, number 3.
my number 3, if anybody follows us on Facebook, they knew last night I had on my Buck Owens shirt that said "Buckle." And my number 3 is a cover of the great Buck Owens, and it's Act Naturally.
I mean, I'm giving you props on that song right there with Bug. Ringo does a super job with that.
And
song.
I actually didn't know till this week that later on he recorded a duet with Buck.
It's good. You played the last 2 days. It's good. Total props on that.
Now, all right. So who sang that song last night?
Act Naturally?
Yeah.
That was Rodney Crowell. Let me look at my list. That was Rodney Crowell and Sarah Jerome.
Yeah, Sarah Trey.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with Rodney Crowell. I remember Rodney Crowell singing that.
yeah, he did. All right. It's good number 3.
Okay. My number 3 is With a Little Help from My Friends,
There you go.
which was a great finish. Last night.
They finished, and that's when everyone came on stage. Of course, I finished.
Yeah.
Everyone coming out. Of course.
So it was on the '67 album, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. And y'all can tell me about this part, but the Billy Shears stuff.
Billy Shears.
Every band member take a different name or something. Huh?
Billy Shears was supposed to be the new Paul McCartney, because if you remember, they started planting seeds.
I thought in the Sergeant Pepper's band or whatever, they all had aliases or whatever.
They did, and Paul's was Billy Shears. And then they morphed it into Paul had died and blah blah blah, and on the Abbey Road. So anyway, that's the Billy Shears thing. Introducing Billy Shears.
And that was the song that I was talking about where they said it was written for Ringo knowing he had a limited
Vocal
range vocally.
Yeah.
But, you know, at the end of that song, there's, you know, he's got something he's got kind of really reach for.
Yeah.
And Paul McCartney really kind of helped him with that and went with that. So, have you heard about, you know, there were original lyrics to that song that said, you know, what would you do if I sang out of tune? Would you throw ripe tomatoes at me?
Oh, that was the original.
That was original. And Ringo wanted it changed and did get it changed because George Harrison had mentioned something about how much he liked like jelly bellies, which I guess are like jelly beans to us.
They are.
And they were throwing them at him. So Ringo said, you know, I want that more in this line.
Yeah.
You know, so
Good job.
and it's amazing how
That's called risk management.
How many songwriters had just really stupid ass names for songs before the one they
I mean, yeah, they
landed
started
on?
with
Because
something.
I mean,
They
when
got it down.
Willie Nelson wrote "Crazy," the original title was "Stupid."
Yeah. Yeah.
And to me, it hits him. It's like, this.
Yeah. Yeah, let's think through this. Yeah.
So one more comment.
Sure.
Joe Cocker's version.
It's the best.
It's the best.
You know, yeah. And it's the theme for Wonder Years.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest shows.
Love
the
that version.
and the Beatles version is A plus. There's only one person on the planet that can take a Beatles song and make it better, and the late Joe Cocker was that person.
And he did it.
Multiple
On a
times
couple
with
occasions.
Beatles songs. Yeah, good choice. That happens to be my number 3 as well. Yeah, that one. I'm lining up into my power trio here.
We may have
We may have to. Yeah. Let's see what you got for me too.
My number 2 is "With a Little Help from My Friends."
And yes, the Ringo lessons. What's wrong with you, man?
This song was briefly called "The Badfinger Boogie," which, you know, as we know later on, Paul produced Badfinger. So that's kind of where that came from.
That's wild.
And the Maryland governor at the time, Spiro Agnew,
vice president.
he lobbied to have that song banned because he claimed it was all the drug use and stuff.
No. What a wine gas.
Yeah,
He didn't make it long anyway. He had a lot of money though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
most politicians do.
Well, Spiro had a lot. Right. Good choice, Beeps.
All right, we're at number 2.
Yes.
All right, number 2 is Photograph.
There you go.
All right, so co-written with George Harrison, released as the lead single on the '73 album Ringo. Lyrics talking about lost love, where you know he has a photograph to remember by.
Right.
But the heartwarming thing is, you know, after George Harrison died, then that kind of changed the meaning of that song. You know, to Ringo. That's who he remembered. You know. So
Good stuff.
he sang that song at the Grammy Awards,
Mm.
and that was the show where he and McCartney both were awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award to surviving Beatles.
That's so awesome. So awesome. We talked earlier about Harrison's. You could tell Harrison's influence in some of Ringo's solo work, and I mean, he co-wrote that with
He had to be just his best pal.
They had to be best
Yeah.
mates.
Yeah.
Yeah. Best mates.
Mates.
All right, my number 2 hadn't been mentioned. I'll be the first one to throw it down. Maybe the only, but I don't think so. It don't come easy. That's my number 2, and I battled back and forth with that one, and I just think that's one of his. You know, it's well written, it's well sung, and the music's great, and that charted big for Ringo too. So, all right, we're down to number 1. It's Moment of Truth, Percy.
My number 1, nobody will have. I know this for a fact. And it's off the album of Boo Hoo's the Blues. And the first line in this song, it says, "Look at me now, ain't I a sight? My eyes bloody red, my face puffy white. And this song is Wine, Women, and Loud Happy Souls.
Say, great.
It's my number one too.
No, it's not. And Wilkie will appreciate this. Off this Bukus of Blues album, George Morgan covered a song off this Bukus of Blues. And George Morgan was a country music Hall of Famer, and his daughter is Lori Morgan.
Wow.
Wow, I didn't know that. You know, that raises a great question. So if you look back, like we've done, we're like Ringo doing country. Well, he's already done country, and it's on Buku Blues. So you got Ringo's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 2 times with the Beatles and by himself. What's the chances he gets in the Country Music Hall of Fame?
None.
You don't think so?
No.
Yeah.
Then am I saying that he don't deserve it?
No, you're not saying that. You're saying that
Yeah.
they're just those people.
No, yeah.
It took them forever to put Hank Jr. in there.
Yeah, they're idiots.
They're about as idiotic as the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. All idiots. We could start early on and get all the right people in there. I guarantee it. All right. All right. Number one.
Your number one is It Don't Come No.
No.
Yeah, I love that song. So it was released as a non-album single in 1971, written by Ringo with help from George. Ringo's first release since the Beatles' breakup. Originally titled "You Gotta Pay Your Dues," and it don't come easy. So that was, it wasn't coming easy for Ringo.
No.
You had health problems as a child. You had, he kind of felt like he was, kind of left out in the Beatles groups.
He was sometimes. Well, he wasn't an original member.
Yeah.
The whole thing with Ringo started as Pete Best made the biggest screw up in the history of rock and roll, not showing up for a gig in I think it was Hamburg, and
Yes.
Ringo happened to be in the crowd, and they knew he could play drums, and they got Ringo to come up. And by the way, Ringo can play drums. I want to make sure I put this in there before I forget. Ringo was left-handed. We talked about this, and he learned on a right-handed setup drum kit, which is why when you watch Ringo play the drums, it looks a little sloppy. He washes the hi-hats like that, and he's having to cross over all the time because he's leading with the left. And we're not used to seeing that, especially on a right-handed drum kit. It's like he's the Jimi Hendrix of the drums. Does that make sense? We talked about that. Albert King.
Jimmy and Albert were left-handed, but they had right-handed guitars.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the modern guitar players, Albert would have it strung upside down, and he would be bending notes upwards, where guitar players at the time were bending their notes down.
So it's a natural act.
And then that's when the guitar players started saying, hey, what if we start bending these notes up a little bit? Clapton started doing that. Stevie Ray was doing that.
And to sway those guitar players that were doing that because of Albert and the whole left-handed situation, when they inducted Ringo into the Hall of Fame, before they had a video, and it had the Beatles drum kit out there, and Dave Grohl was talking about Ringo, and then they had a series of different drummers, famous. Chad from Red Hot Chili Peppers, they all came out. Questlove came out, and they were talking about Ringo's style of drumming and how different it was and how unique it was. And a lot of that comes from being a left-handed drummer on a right-handed kit. And they gave him praise. These are some of the greatest drummers in rock and roll. And so many people I've heard over the years go, oh, he wasn't a good drummer. Bullshit. He was a great drummer because you can spot Ringo drums out more so than almost any other drummer, unless you get into like Keith Moon, which sounded like he was shooting an AR.
And I want to mention, you brought up Dave Grohl, and I'm not the biggest Foo Fighters fan, but this past week, on his birthday, he was serving up food for
Dave Grohl, man.
people displaced.
Yeah.
And I just think people need to know that.
Well, that's not the first time.
No, I'm not saying it is.
Dave Grohl shows up.
But there's a lot of people that don't know that.
Yeah, you're right. And Dave Grohl shows up. So my number one, are we down to me?
Mm-hmm.
Photograph. It's all been mentioned. Said I had a Tower Trio going. It's just a matter of which order that we were all going to put them in.
Right.
So great song, great experience, guys. Do it all again. The only thing that was there was nothing missing. I loved if I could have brought up Amanda. I loved if Wilkie could have made it. It's just so much. It was a great experience. Now we'll be bragging about this
It was fun.
for a while.
Hey, one thing I kind of wanted to mention about Keith Best was, yeah, it was bad, but you know what? When they did the anthology, you know, he got some big time royalties. Finally,
Sure.
he made $1 million.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I believe it. Something. He got his million. They got their.
I got their
$1 million. If you hadn't been a dumbass, you'd have 100.
You don't get all screwed up before the concert and not show up.
Luckily for us, Pete Best was an idiot.
Yeah, thankfully we Ringo.
We can all agree on that.
Yeah, everybody needs a drummer named Ringo. I mean, it just fit the part so well. The name, the style, the look. He was like you said, he got forgotten.
But I think people realized how popular he was among the band members with the public. They all loved Ringo.
Love Ringo. Lennon, there was a love hate. Harrison was misunderstood. McCartney, everybody loves him, but he was real pop. Then here's old love. Ringo's a punk dog.
Okay. Peace and love. I
You
mean,
know,
that's
to start with, originally when Pete Best left, they had to ease into Ringo. They didn't really care for him.
Yeah.
But then he, blew,
The
blew him
man.
away.
yeah. Leonard had mentioned something. I think it would kind of in jest, but it was like, hey, if things are going wrong, we just blame it on Ringo.
This was mentioned, in the Yellow Submarine when they left him, and then, it was all in jest with a hint of real truth.
There you go.
And that's how Ringo spent his time in the band, pretty much. He's the fourth wheel. He's the fourth wheel. So, but man, he came through last
Yeah.
night. Peace, love, and happiness. You got a person's pick for Ringo?
I do.
Yeah.
I think we had this on a couple of people's picks. It was on my picks, and it's Don't Pass Me By. But this version is by the Georgia Satellites.
Yeah, we played this. This is great.
And I did not know that this week that they recorded that. Wilton, did you know that they recorded Don't Pass Me By?
Did not.
Could have been a hit for them because they were, to me, a one-hit wonder. Georgia Satellites. I thought when they came out, we talked about this. It's like Skinner's back. One hit. They should have put Don't Pass Me By out so they could at least have two because it was that good. Yeah. All right, guys. Good job tonight. Next week, we got Jeff Walker and Jim Davis coming back.
We'll have in-house entertainment.
Yes, we'll have in-house entertainment. We are going to do slide guitar. Jeff, I think, I know Jeff's going to bring a guitar. Jim's welcome to bring a bass or a guitar or whatever. These guys are very, very talented musicians. They've both been on the show, and we're looking forward to having them back. Brian, we're looking forward to having you back.
I had a blast.
I think we're going to
Last
start
night.
doing your concert experiences on this podcast. We're going to start picking up concerts that you have to go to so we can report on.
So can you have a studio audience next week?
Sure.
Sit in.
Absolutely. We've already a couple people asked if they could come. I said, yeah. But we want to close the door, but we got the glass. You can look in, bars open, be a good time. So
That's lounge.
yeah. Good call, basically. Perfect. Good call. Work on the plaque. We'll actually sit here next week. Great show, great time this week.
Fun. Thank me. Yes.
Well,
Last night.
thanks to Percy for really putting all this together. He really knew that this was going to be a special moment. We were like, okay, yeah, let's do it. And now we're walking away, just still reeling from it. And it was a great time. First, thanks again, Brian. It was a
Thank
great
y'all.
time. Wilkie, thanks for being here. you're with us next time.
Man,
Yeah. We're gonna have you talk to the cab drivers next time.
Yeah, that was an experience to say the least.
Yeah.
You need a whole show for that.
Oh yeah, that'd be after hours. No HBO show, Taxi Cab Confessions.
Yeah, boy. All right.
Showtime.
Anything you want to say first before we sign off?
One thing about us, we're shitty but consistent.
That's exactly right. All I got to say is bye bye.